I'm Helen. I'm 80 years old, and exactly 2 months ago, my best friend of 57 years, Margaret, passed away. I need you to hear what I'm about to say because it might change the way you think about friendship, aging, and love. Not because my story is shocking or tragic, but because it's ordinary, and that ordinariness is exactly why it matters. Margaret and I met when we were just 9 years old. It was 1955, and we were both in Mrs. Larkin's fourth grade class at Maplewood Elementary in suburban Ohio. I don't remember the first words we exchanged, but I remember the way we fit together. We were both bookish, both a little shy, and both endlessly curious. From the start, it felt natural to spend every spare minute together, sharing secrets, collecting comic books, and making up stories about what our lives would be like when we grew up. Over the years, we became inseparable. Middle school, high school, college, every milestone was shared. Margaret went to nursing school in Cleveland, and I stayed in our hometown to teach at the local elementary school. Even when distance came between us, we wrote letters, called each other on Sundays, and visited whenever we could. Our friendship was a constant, a quiet certainty in a world that seemed to shift every day. It's tempting to think that a friendship like ours only exists in novels or in those rare romanticized stories people tell about lifelong friends. But it's real, ordinary, and it's devastating when it ends. Margaret was 64 when she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She found out in March of 2025, and I remember the call like it was yesterday. Her voice was calm, too calm. She said, "Helen, it's not good, but it's okay. I've had a long life." I wanted to scream, to argue, to tell her she had more time, but she wouldn't have listened. Margaret had always been unshakable. She faced everything with quiet strength, and I had always admired that about her. The months that followed were surreal. I spent nearly every day with her, driving back and forth between our homes in Ohio, sitting in her living room with the shades drawn, talking about everything and nothing. We laughed more than you'd think possible in a time like that. We reminisced about our childhood adventures, the pranks we pulled in high school, and the absurdities of our first jobs. We even argued occasionally because old friendships aren't just perfect moments, they're honest ones. We disagreed about politics, about whether pineapple belongs on pizza, and whether she should be taking a new medication. Those arguments were trivial, but they felt sacred, a reminder that life still had texture, even in the shadow of death. I'll be honest, watching Margaret die was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it wasn't the moments in the hospital, or the pain she endured, or the quiet, lonely nights after she was gone. It was something subtler. It was realizing that 57 years of friendship, half a century of laughter, arguments, secrets, and memories could end in a single afternoon. That someone who had been as constant as the sun could suddenly be gone, leaving a silence that no phone call, letter, or memory could fill. But even in that silence, I learned something profound. I learned that the depth of a relationship isn't measured in decades alone, but in the small, ordinary choices that fill those decades. The choice to show up for birthday parties, to visit when it was inconvenient, to sit quietly with someone when words weren't enough. That's where love lives. Margaret and I never had a perfect friendship. We had fights, misunderstandings, and months where life simply got in the way. But we always came back to each other, and that's what mattered. After Margaret passed, I went through a strange period of reflection. Grief, of course, was there, but so was deep gratitude. I had spent nearly 60 years with someone who knew me completely, who laughed at my worst jokes, understood my silences, and loved me unconditionally. That kind of bond is rare. At 80, I began to see my own mortality differently. Friends, family, lovers, they can all be gone in an instant. Yet the love, the laughter, and the shared experiences remain, shaping who we are. Margaret and I had a small cabin by Lake Erie, and at first I couldn't return. But one November day, I sat on the porch, and she was still there, in our memories, routines, and quiet reflections. I started thinking about all the lessons Margaret taught me. She taught me patience, patience with others, and patience with myself. She taught me joy in the ordinary, finding delight in a perfectly brewed cup of tea in the first snow of winter, in a well-written letter. She taught me courage, not the kind that makes headlines, but the quiet courage to face life's difficulties with dignity. And she taught me love, the kind that doesn't need to be dramatic to be profound. One of the most unexpected lessons came from how she faced her own death. Margaret never begged for extra time. She never resented her illness. She accepted what she could not control, and she made the most of every remaining moment. Watching her do that, I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. Happiness and peace aren't about circumstances. They're about perspective, about choice, about the commitment to live fully even when life is falling apart. I've also learned the importance of expressing gratitude while you still can. I wish I had told Margaret more often how much she meant to me, how much our friendship shaped my life. I did tell her, of course, but I could have done it more, in more ways. So I tell you now, if there's someone in your life who has been there for decades, who has laughed with you, cried with you, who has simply shown up, don't wait. Tell them, write to them, sit with them, because someday that chance may be gone. In the weeks after Margaret's funeral, I found myself thinking about how our friendship influenced every other relationship in my life. I realized that because I had loved so fully, so consistently for so long, I was capable of loving deeply elsewhere. My children, my grandchildren, my neighbors, even strangers. I could approach life with generosity and openness because of her. Friendship isn't just about companionship. It's about training your heart to love, to forgive, to grow. And Margaret did that for me without ever demanding recognition. Learning to navigate life without Margaret has been its own challenge. Simple things, deciding where to go for a weekend trip, which books to read, feel different now. There's no one to debate a novel's merits, insist I try a new recipe, or share the inside jokes only we understood. And yet, in her absence, I've found a new kind of freedom. I can explore, reflect, and create in ways I hadn't realized were possible. Sometimes walking through my Columbus neighborhood, I see a child on a bicycle or a mother with her little one. And I think about how ordinary moments can grow into lifelong connections. Sharing Margaret's life and our friendship keeps her alive, honors our bond, and passes on the lessons of love, laughter, and presence. At 80, I savor these small, rich moments, the warmth of sunlight, fresh bread, and children's laughter, because this is where life's true richness resides. I also reflect on what it means to truly love someone. Margaret loved me without conditions. She celebrated my triumphs and comforted me in my failures. She didn't try to fix me, nor did she demand perfection. She simply accepted me in my entirety. That's the kind of love I now strive to bring into every relationship I have. Not the dramatic kind that makes headlines, but the quiet, steady, unwavering kind that transforms ordinary days into meaningful ones. If there's one message I want to leave you with, it's this. Cherish the friendships that endure, but also recognize that life is fragile. Don't wait for a dramatic event to realize what matters. Tell the people you love how much they mean to you. Be present, show up, laugh together, cry together. And when someone leaves, whether through death or distance, honor the love you shared by living fully and kindly, carrying their lessons forward. Margaret's passing has been a profound reminder of what matters most. It has shown me that love, in all its forms, friendship, family, partnership, is not about perfection or permanence. It's about presence, care, and the willingness to be deeply human with someone else. And while her absence is keenly felt every day, the life we built together, the memories we created, and the lessons she taught me are gifts I will carry to my own end. Life will not always be easy, and the people we love will not always stay, but the love itself, the care, the laughter, the shared history endures. That's the legacy of true friendship, and that's what Margaret left me. A blueprint for loving deeply, living fully, and being present in every ordinary, extraordinary day. So if you've had a friend like Margaret, or if you currently have someone in your life who makes your days brighter, don't take it for granted. Tell them, sit with them, laugh with them, love them fiercely while you can, and when the time comes to say goodbye, remember that love is never truly lost. It lives on in you, in the choices you make, and in the way you carry it forward. Margaret may be gone, but she will never be forgotten, and I will continue to live in a way that honors the extraordinary friendship we shared for 57 years. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had a lifelong friend or lost someone who shaped your life, subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications because there are more stories coming, stories of love, loss, and the quiet lessons that can change a lifetime. And if you have a story of your own, something you've learned from friendship or loss, leave a comment below. Share it. Your experience matters. It could help someone else see the depth and beauty in their own life.